Let's start with a show of hands. Who in the audience consumes coffee on a regular basis? Show of hands. Okay. So most of us in the room consume coffee on a regular basis. Now, among those coffee consumers, who here would say they need coffee to get through the day? And not just like your tough Monday, but like you need a coffee to get through your day most days. Show of hands. So again, a lot of us in the room feel like we need coffee. And I want to talk about why that is. So the first answer is always caffeine. We need caffeine. Well, yeah, it wakes us up, gets us going, but I don't think that that's really all there is to it. There's also taste. We all love the taste of coffee if we drink it. It's robust, the aroma gets into our nostrils, gets us going in the morning. We get to experience that. Also a great thing and can really enhance every cup. But I think that it's more our emotional connection to every cup and our emotional connection to the ritual of having a cup of coffee than it is those first two things. So I'm going to start now with a story about my first cup of coffee. I had my first cup of coffee when I was 21 years old. I was a late bloomer. I grew up in a British family. My parents drank tea, but, I just had no interest in it. I was 21, and I was in a bar, and I saw a girl, and I thought, I got to ask this girl on a date. So I did, and she suggested that we meet up for coffee the next day, and that's precisely what we did. So I got there nervous already because I'm on a date. We get to the till, and she starts to order, and she's using these words I've never heard before, this terminology I had no idea what it meant. So in order to seem cool, I said, yeah, I'll have one too. Yeah, that sounds great. So we sit down, and the barista brings us out this, what I can only describe now as a trough, and just plops it in front of us. And that's when I learn that I'm drinking an iced soy latte. And I pick it up, I take a sip, and it was terrible. It sucked. I didn't enjoy it at all. But yet, to this day, I still look at that and remember it and look at it fondly. And the reason why I look at it fondly is because it made me think, why do people drink this beverage? What do people like about it? So I went out within a couple months, got myself a job at a cafe that was supposed to have the highest quality coffee that you could get in town. And I immersed myself in coffee. I got obsessed with it and was reaching new quality levels, learning more about the science, enjoying it more and more. And then I plateaued. I got to a plateau. I couldn't do anything more to improve the quality of our coffee. And that's when I decided I'm the last step on the chain of coffee's travel into your mug. So what more can I do? So I thought, I'm going to start interacting with our roaster more. I'm going to talk to them, get the story from them on how they're dealing with the coffee. And sure enough, it didn't necessarily improve the quality of my cup, but it made me enjoy it more. It re-sparked my love for it. Through talking to them, their methods, my methods, and knowing more about it, I fell in love with it even more. So I think that we're about to see a cultural shift in the way we consume and view coffee. And we're watching it rise, not just to a specialty coffee level, but into the same echelon of specialty beverage of like scotch and wine. And I think what's taking it there is a thing called direct trade. A direct trade might be a concept here that some of you know about, some of you don't. But what it is it's coffee roasters that travel to coffee-producing countries and meet not with brokers, but with farmers directly at their farm and work with them to buy quality coffee and improve the quality of each cup. Now, with a new buying system, there's challenges, massive ones. I'm going to go into two today. First challenge is transparency. A third governing body would negate the purpose of direct trade, because if you have someone making sure you're interacting with a farmer properly, then the relationship breaks down. So we need to rely on our roasters as consumers to be as transparent as possible. And we're seeing it. A lot of roasters are putting a lot of different things on bags, but we need to know who produced the coffee and where. The second major challenge right now is an education of the agricultural base in coffee-producing countries. And I'm not speaking of education in the means of we should make sure all the farmers out there know how to read and write, because that's really important, but it's more the education on what we as consumers expect out of our coffee, which we have to convey to the farmers. So I'm going to share a little story with you guys about a recent trip I took to Colombia. So the man in the blue shirt here is named Lejino Pajoy, and the man beside him in the brown shirt with the cup in his hand is named Ardenar Guzman. Now, I had these guys built up as rock star status when we got to Colombia, because they had coffee in our shop the year before. It was amazing. It blew my mind. Every day I came in and I knew it was going to be the coffee we were brewing, I got excited. So I pictured them to have this vision of what they were trying to create. And when we met them, I was almost shaking. So they brought samples with them, and we immediately roasted them, and we got to taste them. And it was so disappointing, because a simple error in the way they both processed their coffee meant that it didn't taste good. So we sat down with them and got to talking and said, your coffee was over-dried this time. It caused it to taste woody. It's not something that we can purchase at this moment. What happened? And they, like the average Colombian farmer, thought they had done the exact same thing, because a coffee purchasing transaction in Colombia goes like this. Your farmer grows his coffee, your farmer picks his coffee, your farmer ferments his coffee, then he dries it, then he carries it down a mountain himself and takes it to a co-op, and the co-op gives him a check blindly. So they harvest every 3 weeks. So one session, I get a check for thousands of dollars. Next section I come, I get a check for pennies. But they never tell you why. They never say, we're going to give you $1,000 because it's perfect, and we're giving you pennies because you messed up on this really small but fundamental stage. Furthermore, through talking to Lejino and Ardenar, we realized they'd never even tasted their own coffee. They'd never had a cup of their own coffee. They drank mostly Vietnamese imported pre-ground coffee that was probably a year off harvest. So we enrolled them in a coffee tasting class at the co-op, and were able to taste their own coffee last year and this year so that we could say, this was good, this is bad. And that's the important thing. So a lot of people, when we talk about direct trade, a huge criticism of it is that consumerism is fickle. And it is. But there are processes being put in place, and have already been put in place, on how to grade a coffee's quality and its processing. So it's not shooting in the dark like some people think it may be. It's way too in depth to get into in 18 minutes, but yeah, the processes are there. So I want to talk now about why are we moving towards direct trade? Is it our obsession with quality? Maybe. As a culture, we like to have the best and brightest and shiniest things. But I think that it's more than that. It's because we want the story. It's the reason we're all here today. We want to hear stories, because stories enrich our lives. So we want to be able to hold every moment of that cup with us for as long as we can. And how we can do this as consumers drinking coffee on a day-to-day basis is really simple. We just need to start asking questions. Go into your local coffee shop, go into your local roaster, ask them, who produced this coffee? Where was it grown? In what region? What elevation? Do they have a family? Because the more you know about how the bean got to the cup and that story, the more it will enhance your enjoyment of every cup and make that cup unforgettable. Thank you.